Hello and welcome. Welcome all to session prep. Let's just get my camera going here. It's always a little technical blip. Why not? Wouldn't be session prep without one. Yes. Welcome. There we go. Adventure hooks on the sidebar. So, this is our third session prep. How's my sound? Let me know how that's sounding in the chat. Hello, DW Gable. Sundog, welcome. We're on. Seems like, yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, it's first session. I chatted for a little while, but had the mic still muted, so it's always good to check on that. Yeah, so I'm your game master, GMBenn, and this is my co-host, other side, over in the corner, Thaco, the D20 Mimic. Hello over there. And I'm here to help you prepare your next session. And you can find me on the Goodman Games Twitch channel every odd Sundays, I guess, at 4 Eastern. You can catch me again 2 weeks from today, Sunday, that's April 9th, and we'll be talking about and today, though, we're talking about getting your players to leave town. Gold doesn't do it anymore. No, it's, they used to be the easy one, less so these days. And experience is a tricky one as well. Milestone leveling, great question. These are the sorts of topics we'll cover today. Getting your players to leave town was a topic suggested to us in the first stream by a user in the Twitch chat, Vomit Goblin. So I hope Vomit Goblin logs in today and sees the stream. Otherwise, you can catch the replay streams on YouTube. They come up in about 1 or 2 weeks after each stream. So if you're tuning in on Twitch, hello and welcome. Feel free to ask your DMing questions in the chat. I'll deal with them as we go. Sometimes I'll save for the end. I can also field more of them at the end, but I love going back and forth with who's ever in the chat. So speak up, ask your questions, on topic, off topic, doesn't matter. If you're watching later on YouTube, well, hello. Be sure to like and subscribe. I don't get anything extra from your subscriptions to Goodman Games, but I like to see it. And if you want to follow me, I got all these accounts. Oh my goodness, there's too many. Look at this. I'm on Twitter and YouTube at GMBenn, and I'm on TikTok and Twitch at GMBenn Show. On TikTok, I put up some little 30-second clips from this show with some of the little nuggets of wisdom. In case you miss one, you can just catch a few 30-second clips. It works pretty good. DW Gable, Sundog, whoever else is joining us in the chat. I did kind of want to start and ask about GM experience of those of you who are with us. Immunin, hi, hello. How many years have you been GMing? How many games have you run? It kind of gives me a sense of where to pitch some of my info, where my audience is coming from. I know there's a lot of other very experienced GMs, and even we can share tips and advice in a way that helps all of us. But then every once in a while, there's some new GMs logging in as well. So it's good to kind of get a sense of where where the chat is at today. Yeah, so let me know in the chat, how long have you been playing for? How many campaigns have you run? I wanted to give a special thanks to some Creative Commons music that lets us do a nice little spiffy stream. That's some of the tracks today are from Alexander Nakarada, Ian Grimm, and Jonathan Kang produced some of these. So wonderful to have them, their talent supporting a show like this. Yeah. So the players are having trouble leaving town. DW Abel says, mainly played since 1981. Love to hear it. But getting ready to run DCC with some friends. Cool. This stream, in the past 2 streams I did focus on 5e, but still had advice that would be relevant to any kind of gaming system. This stream, 5e is what I mostly DM, and I'm the lead editor of many of the 5th edition books that come out through Goodman Games, so that's sometimes where I focus. But this stream, we got over in the top, the town. This is going to be quite a bit more, I guess, system neutrals. We talk about GMing tips specifically related to adventure hooks. Sundog got into D&D in 78, I think, but most of my early memories are from basic to AD&D. Excellent. Love to hear it. Yeah, we talked about this in our earlier stream. My absolute earliest memories are the basic set, I think 3rd revision with the Jeff Easley cover. Maybe Larry Elmore, and then got into AD&D as well. So we want to get our players to leave town, and it's gonna be tricky. I want to start, I guess, by kind of asking the obvious question of why do they need to leave town? You know, has anyone in the chat ever run just a town like full session or a town full adventure? You don't have to get your players to leave town. Let's get that out of the way right away. Why leave it all? And this question was brought up because I think the dungeon master had had an adventure going on, wanted to get the players hooked to the adventure. The adventure was outside of town, and the players weren't biting. They were just kept going around in town. And I know as a dungeon master myself, having to improvise in town can be, or having to improvise not just in town, having to improvise what you haven't prepared can be kind of mentally exhausting or taxing. It takes calories literally to be creative, and improvisation is a form of that. You can drain yourself improvising an entire session. It's one of the reasons we like to prep. It's one of the reasons that improvisation can be difficult. So if you're having to improvise all the time because the players aren't taking your hooks, that's kind of the reason why there's a problem. Now, if you're in town, if the player's in town and they're ignoring your adventure, but they're having fun, there's not much of a problem. And if you're having fun, there's even less of a problem. So to clear that up right away, why leave town at all? If your party is having fun in town, that's just a different adventure. You're off on a town adventure. You can have a whole campaign of D&D without ever leaving town. So good to establish that. Yeah, the old system tended to induce DM fatigue. Yeah, I can relate to that. A little DM tip. I recommend everyone every dungeon master familiarize himself with a contingent of random tables that they like. You can use websites, you can use charts with dice, you can use a spreadsheet. I very much encourage, and not every chart is great for a dungeon master, but find the ones that work for you, that fill your gap. Because, if you need NPC names, have that on the ready. If you need random treasure tables, that's an obvious one. If you need random storefronts, if you need random monsters is a common one. But there can also just be random adventure hooks, random events in town, random items for sale, random trinkets. Having those hotkeyed in tabs, ready to go, you're going to run a less fatigue-inducing session, and you can run it in town. Ryan Immel, good to see you back in stream again. Absolutely. History Pop says, what if my players just want to stop and play Magic the Gathering? Yeah, what if? I mean, I'd say it'd be a different stream if we're talking about, player motivation, but let's start with the assumption that everyone's gathered today hoping to play Dungeons and Dragons. They're just off on the wrong foot, and there can be all sorts of causes, and if you can isolate the cause, you can kind of know the solution a little bit. But I think we're going to focus a bit more today on a variety of solutions, and then you can kind of think and find what one would work for your group. If they want to stop and play Magic the Gathering, I think you got to run a much more exciting game of D&D. You could just stop, but why stop when you could rise to the challenge? Yeah, great to see everyone in the chat. Yeah, the Sundog says, I still love the random dungeon creator provided with the GM guide. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a big fan of it. I think you have to use the random hooks as well. Like just why is there a troll in one room and ogre in the next? Can get a little stale. But when you roll a random table and you've done it in such an elegant way that the players don't know it was a random table, obviously there was an ogre here all along because look at all the food stores he's got. Little details like this, and then you've got a richer world created by the random tables without feeling random. Random tables would be another great topic for a whole episode. Make a note of that. Always good to use them. Little side trek there. And Sundeck says the dungeon tends to flesh itself out. Yes, I agree. The players go exploring. They're like, what's around the corner? And you think, oh, well, if an ogre was here, around the corner is going to be, oh, don't look there. Could be anything. Okay. So we've talked about, why even leave town? If the players are having fun in town, if you're improvising and it's going well, let them do it for a while. But at a certain point, if you've asked this question, if you're trying to get your players to leave town, you've got a reason, and most likely the reason is adventure is out there in town. So one solution is that I'll come back to at the end if we have time, is to bring the adventure to the party. This works for all kinds of dilemmas you might have if the party's not grabbing on to what you think they will, or they haven't headed towards your prepared content. You need to bring the prepared content to where they are. They're here, bring the content to them. But running adventures in town is, again, a whole nother topic. So we'll save that. I can jump back to it at the end if we have time. But I want to talk about getting the players out of town. And I was wondering in chat, what are some of the solutions that you have used, or some of the solutions that come to you now? Some of them might be things that I had already wanted to talk about, and I might save them until we get to them, but other ones might be fresh ideas, and there's always great inspiration in the chat here in this stream. Lots of ideas come up that are wonderful. Sundog says, yeah, that first level 0 to 1, that creates the world. Actually, I love that. I love Sunday's running a game where we don't know what we're going to play. It's just, lazy Sunday afternoon, like today, and it's, roll up characters. What world are we in? Don't worry about it. We'll base it on the dungeon. We'll base it on whatever happens in the first session. We have a little narrow focal point just on the characters in the town they're in. Everything else will happen in response. A big category of solutions on getting the players to leave town. Ryan says, my favorite, especially for first arc. Help, our kid has gone missing and we think the goblins got them. Yeah, I like it too. There's a reason that a great channel with DMing advice, Matthew Colville, MCDM, on his Running the Game series, starts with a blacksmith's son, I think, gets abducted by goblins. It's the quintessential. Who wouldn't want to help a kid, I want to start with a big category I call meta solutions. We're all familiar with this word in the gaming often. It's the things beyond the game. So when we think about the game of the game, meta solutions to getting your players to leave the town. If I had difficulty with my players, if they were spending too long, and it might be that it's only some of your players that are doing this. Some of your players are starting to get bored of the town, but you've got half of them or 2 of them or kind of running amok and having a good old time. And that's where you might really need to step in and say, we need to get on with this adventure. And to be honest, that's what meta solutions are. Just tell them. It's not the most fun. It doesn't always work with young players as much because they kind of want to immerse themselves in the world. But I think it's important to establish that you can just talk to your players. The quintessential forum advice, just talk to your players. Just talk to your dungeon master. I do think it works. I think you can just tell them. But I think there's multiple ways to do it. You can immediately and clearly kind of say, sorry guys, I've kind of run out of content for town, it looks like everyone wants to get on with the adventure, so when you're ready, we're all here to play a game. The game is this adventure that I prepared, and it's gonna be out in the woods. So whenever you're ready, we can go in that direction. You can just ask them. But I think there can be room for a bit more finesse to kind of keep the suspension of disbelief around the characters, not to force it, not to make someone who, let's say you have a character someone makes a character that's kind of a scaredy cat, and they want to overcome that fear, but they feel like the first session is too soon to overcome that fear. You're pushing them to go off into a cave, and they're saying, I'm first level, I don't want to go in that cave. And that can be a little tricky because they want that development. They want to be brave, but it's not the right moment for them. So one of the ways that I think that can help is you can have, everyone talks about the session 0 contract. You can kind of do it beforehand. You can kind of say to them, for example, if you say, we're doing the Horde of the Dragon Queen adventure, it's published, that's part of your session 0 contract, and we're going to run this adventure. And then the players know in advance if they're making that scaredy cat character, they should want to confront the minions of this cult of the Dragon Queen. Moonin says, maybe related, but how do you brainstorm ideas for hooks that will connect with players and their characters at the same time? Usually if players see the motivation in the game, they all want to go, oh, Moonin, we're on the same page. This will come up. This will come up. We'll move to that topic here shortly. The ever-loving Session Zero. Yes, the ever-loving Session Zero. You know, you can also say to them, I talked about a bit in the opening there, I'm jumping around, but I talked a bit in the opening about how gold doesn't do it anymore. You know, in Session Zero, you can clearly tell your characters what will level them up, because in an older edition of Dungeons & Dragons, it was suggested, it was the rule, then it was suggested, and it slowly got phased out. Gold was a source of experience points. I played back when 100 gold meant 100 experience, and we played to full clear a dungeon. There's no gold in town. Gold is in the dungeon, and that's where you have to go to get it, and that's where you're going to level up. And of course, we were younger, so we were certainly obsessed with getting the biggest numbers on the page possible, and that meant gold. But we all like leveling up. We all like advancing our powers. And so you can kind of say to the characters, I've done this one in my games a little bit. I've said to them, I might, you know, we've had a session. They've just spoken to the Baron of the Wasteland Village, and the Baron has a problem that he needs to solve of a lost meteorite in the desert. And after that session, I've said to my players, this isn't a Session Zero, but I just plainly told them when the milestone level up is going to come along. You know, I said, you're going to hit level 2 when you find that meteorite. And then they knew that I would DM whatever they wanted to do. They could go off and get treasure elsewhere, but they knew when they were ready and they wanted that level, they had to hunt for the meteorite. And then at that point, if you have a character who's maybe doesn't want to role play in the direction of, you know, why would I go off into a desert wasteland? I'm an arena fighter. I want to battle the next battle in the arena. Because you've given them the heads up, they know, my power growth, my new sword technique is not going to come until I find that meteorite. And you've kind of tied some story element into their level up. You know, a lot of people talk about using story-based milestone leveling, like, oh, you're going to hit level 2 when you get clear the dungeon, you're going to hit level 2. And I'm a big fan. If you do that, tell the players at least one story beat in advance where they're going to level up. Ryan says, I'll typically tell my players above the table, especially if they're looking to buy magic items in a shop, that all the best stuff in my world is not sitting on a shelf with a price tag on it. Sometimes that helps. Yeah, I like that too. You say, you know, there's buried secrets in the old ruins of this world. The wealthiest and people are not alive, but have tombs beneath the earth filled with traps. And Sundog says, let them redefine themselves in the beginning. And that's true too. If you've got a character, you know, that's a scaredy cat, then you might want to say it aside. Like we were just talking a bit about announce milestones for levels. And we talked about Session 0. And say it to someone aside, as an aside. Just a little whisper. If you're online, you got a private chat. Otherwise, speak to someone afterwards. You know, DM should always have a few one-on-ones. If you've got, you know, that one character who's a scaredy cat and wants to roleplay that, or you've got that one character who is a gladiator that wants to fight in the arena, or you've got that one character who just wants to go gambling and is kind of in the casino and is being difficult with the adventure. If it's just one, that's a great time to send them a little whisper and say, hey, your character's not as enthusiastic for the adventure as the other characters. For next session, I'm planning to prepare a dungeon in the desert. What do you think would make your character... I love phrasing it as a question. What do you think would make your character want to go to a desert in the dungeon? You kind of work with them. You don't need to be heavy-handed. There are ways that you can finesse it a little bit. Asking them. Help them rewrite their character to fit that. What would it take for your scaredy cat character to overcome that fear and want to go off to the desert wasteland? Water. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. These are some of the meta things I was brainstorming and some of them that came from you as well in the chat. Great ways to bring your characters out of town and into the dungeon. It can be, as we were saying, just speak to them. But Munin hinted at another one there. Hooks that will connect with players and their characters at the same time. Well, let's break that down. Let's start with what do a hook for the players. This is also a little bit meta. So it comes right out of meta. You know, hook for, like, if we tell someone, oh, you're gonna level up in the dungeon, that's a hook for the players. If we tell someone, dude, would you please run me through Dark Sun? I love Desert Wastelands. I honestly just finished a campaign of that. It'll be a while before I go back. Love it. A hook for the players. If you tell someone you're gonna level up when you find the meteorite in the desert, that it's a meta solution, you know, but it's also a hook for the players. It's not forcing it. It's not pushing it. It's hooking them. It is kind of withholding what they're going to level up into, but it's hooking them a little bit. And Ryan says, an opportunity. A thief stumbles into town, collapses dead. In his pocket is a map and his treasure in a cave outside of town. I love it. I love it. Ryan, we're going to come back to that with story hooks. Love it, absolutely. So I wanted to ask, though, for player hooks, while I throw some of these notes in case I have to tear off this page into our good copy on the left-hand side of the page there. Let's pretend that you're all, as Sundog says, run me through Dark Sun, please. You know, let's pretend you're all my players. What do you, and you've all played, you're Dungeon Masters, but you've played before. What do you love best about the game? What's your favorite thing to do? Share with me that sweet spot moment that you really love about the game, and we can think up some hooks that will hook you if you were my group of players. One of the things that comes out of Dungeon Master's Guide, I think Dungeon Master's Guide 2 and 3rd edition did a really good job of it, but it was originally written by Robin D. Laws of Good Game Mastering, a supplement in about 2002, 2003, something like that. So Wizards of the Coast contracted Robin to write the Dungeon Master's Guide 2. He did something, that's a great book, by the way, that I would recommend everyone check out if you are able to get an old copy. Dungeon Master's Guide 2, or Robin D. Laws' Laws of Great Game Mastering. He broke down player types into different ways that people enjoy the game. And it was, you know, it's a little bit boxy, a little bit formulaic. You know, he kind of admitted that they're blurry and people fit into different categories. But what it does is it helps the Dungeon Master see, and Robin had DM'd at a lot of conventions, met many different types of players in his home game. And so he had these suggestions for ways to give every player what they want. We'll touch on some of that here today. Put some of our meta solutions in the chat here. Yeah, put some there. Tell that player privately. So Sundog wants the kill shot. Yeah, I love that. Ryan says, the player wants to uncover a secret truth of the world that nobody has known or found in ages. Oh, that's a great one too. Yes. Yeah. I'm you know, as a Dungeon Master, some people would think, oh, Dungeon Master, you know, you're forever, you love stories, like that's your focus, that's what you like to do. But no, I love getting the kill shot just as much as the next person. I love getting my character's secret that no one's uncovered before. GW Gable says, problem solving over hack and slash, but there is a magic ratio. I do enjoy a good hex crawl too. Well, hex crawl is all about problem solving because it's there's always an unknown involved in hex crawls. There's always a mystery, and uncovering that mystery is kind of a way of that you're solving problems a little bit. Yeah, so let's say this is my party. Give us a little more writing room here. We have someone who we have Ryan. I love it. Ryan wants to uncover a truth, a secret, let's say, a truth that no one else knows, aka a secret. Sundog Sundog wants the kill shot. Epic conflict hinging on one or two rolls when it comes down to it. Love that too. DW Gable says problem solving. Hell yeah, let's roll up some characters. Get ready, crew. Yeah, so Ryan wants a secret, Sundog wants a kill shot, and DW Gable loves problem solving. So to an extent, Ryan and DW, we can see some overlap there, but there's always groups where you're going to have someone loving this component, or, there's a little Sundog in all of us, you could say. Sometimes all of us want that epic fight to eventually get the secret or something like that. But I love this three character party. We can do this. So we want a hook to motivate the characters, and what we want to do is we could solve these in a meta way, which we already talked about meta. Like, for example, I know Sundog likes an epic conflict, so we could say that there's going to be, right away I could say to Sundog, on this adventure there's going to be about 50% fighting and 50% role playing, and Sundog would say that's for me. And DW Gable likes problem solving, so I could say, DW, I'm going to focus on the 3 pillars. We're going to have room for exploration and challenges that aren't just solved by a quick spell or a duel over hit points. So those are things we can solve in session 0 in meta, where I'm going to be running the type of game that you enjoy, so you're ready to latch on to my adventure. But another way that we can kind of draw in 3 players just like this, and we talked about this with our monsters episode a little bit, with foreshadowing. We can foreshadow some of these. We can hint that this is coming up in the adventure, and we'll get to story hooks here in a minute. But I was picturing, so Ryan wants a secret that no one else knows, and DW Gale wants a problem to solve, and Sundog wants a kill shot. And so I'm picturing out in our desert wasteland, Ryan has probably already made a character that is looking for secrets and things. Uncovers an ancient book that suggests some lost knowledge was buried with a sorcerer of the undead, a necromancer who was entrapped, buried alive to prevent his ancient secret from overtaking the world. And right there in that one sentence, we've kind of told all 3 of these players they're going to get something that they love out of the session. Ryan knows there's secret lore. That was maybe the trickiest. DW Gable sees, a buried tomb. I mean, that's going to have problems and puzzles and challenges. And hopefully DW likes the style that I would run. And it's not just, it's not just a tomb of a prince. It's a tomb of a necromancer. We've hinted right there that there's going to be a really intense fight where if Sundog can just plant the crossbow bolt between the eyes of the necromancer, all the undead in the room will collapse. A single kill shot to end them all, kind of thing. We've got the foreshadowing for that scene where the party is gonna be able to have that epic moment that clicks for everything they want, and they already can kind of see it coming on the horizon. And then, as a little aside, I'll say, you've set that up. That's session 1 or 2. You're all going out into the desert. Then I get to listen as a dungeon master. I get to listen to what you're all saying a little bit. I get to kind of pay attention, and I haven't written we've just come up with one idea on the fly. Haven't written this scene yet, but once I pay attention to you, I see what you're all looking towards. I see what you're loving. Then I can kind of rewrite that final scene as I this was just our first draft. I'll take your feedback. You won't know that I'm changing it, but as we get closer, I can realize, DW actually, kind of really likes puzzles involving real world physics. So let's make the necromancer a vampire vulnerable to sun. And there's a bunch of mirrors that can kind of be, I think this is for a movie that I stole, but a bunch of mirrors that you can bounce sun into the layer, something like that. Sundog says, look up Adam Coble. This is the tier of prep that matters. Thank you for the recommendation. I've not heard of Adam Coble. I'll check it out. Absolutely. So these are the hook for the players. We want to give them something they want. And we can just tell them, or we can foreshadow it a little bit. And I'll once again plug some of the advice in like Dungeon Master's Guide 2 by Robin D. Laws, where, he'll outline, you've got the number cruncher player, you've got the story focused player, but sometimes you just also have the social player. The social player is someone that may not seem like they want anything out of the adventure, but they want to laugh with everyone else having fun. They want to be a part of a scene that everyone else is enjoying. And so sometimes, you got a player and you can't pinpoint exactly what they like, but you can eventually notice, well, you know what, they're going to have fun as long as the rest of us are too. And so that's a neat little book that outlines player types and kind of looks at how you can write adventures to appeal to all the different player types. Willie the Rat says, I like to see PC's actions to have outcomes or upon the environment. No vacuum. Oh, yes, absolutely. We talked about that in a previous episode, the verisimilitude. You want to see things change. You want to see that epic moment land. You want to see that you have had an impact. Pretending that the story matters is one of the rich elements of D&D. In a video game, it's, your playthroughs could be almost the same as 1,000, 100, a million other players, but in D&D, it's your actions do matter, and that's a strength of Dungeons & Dragons that we can lean into as Dungeon Masters. We can make a more rich adventure when we can create these scenarios where the player's choices do affect the outcome, and it couldn't have occurred any other way because it could only have occurred the way that player decided, not the way the Dungeon Master intended. So we looked at player hooks. And there was Adam Cole made Dungeon World. Oh, excellent. Yeah. Another one that I'll skip over a little bit, because we talked a lot about adventure hooks for monsters and match your characters last week. We talked a bit about the way that you can customize a monster towards a character by knowing that character and modifying the monster to match the character. And that kind of lines up here because these are player hooks. I'll get a fresh sheet of paper here. But there are also character hooks, like knowing what a character enjoys. It's worth talking about for just a minute. Chad, I was wondering what types of ways could we hook something that a character is into? Could we connect an adventure to a character's backstory, or connect an adventure to something that a character focuses on? Like with Ryan wanting a secret, perhaps, that's not Ryan as a player, maybe that's Ryan's character. So we have some hooks for players here. Talk briefly about hooks for characters. Oh, Sundog, thank you. I got a trophy from Chad. Love it. Love it. Yeah, I won't spend too much on character hooks. It overlaps with our last episode, but just thinking if you know what a character wants, if you know what a character wants, you can put that outside of town. You can if you know a barbarian, a straightforward one wants a magic axe. If you know a paladin took the fight a protection fighting style and is going to always have a shield, very straightforward something. If they won't leave town, but they learn that there's a magic axe buried in the crypt of the necromancer, or they learn that there's a sun shield that the vampire necromancer secreted away so he would never be caught in the artificial rays of the sun. Those are right there, something that we know the character wants, and the adventure can hint at them. We also talked a little bit in a previous stream about backstory connections, where, you know, a character who's, you know, just gambling and carousing in town, backstory connections. A character just gambling, carousing in town, maybe ignoring your adventure hook, but can they ignore your adventure hook when the vampire necromancer's lair out in the desert actually is in the process of stealing corpses from the village and has stolen the corpses of their family members? And, you know, then you might get a player that goes, oh, who cares, they're already dead. You can up the ante. You can have the necromancer start creating corpses, raise the risk. And that's kind of a quick breeze through of character hooks, because we talked about before, but it brings us to what Ryan was talking about earlier. What published adventures do the generic way, the big one, maybe the toughest one because it's not personalized, story hooks. Oh, I forgot that Munin asked us a question earlier in chat of merging player hooks and character hooks. And Munin, if you wanted to jump in on that, we could cover it a little bit. You know, I can picture if before, cover it with my dice, before moving into story hooks, if you have, if you get your pad and paper and you know your party and you're trying to kind of plan how can you hook them into this adventure, and you've got a list of what they like, you know, oh, one of my players likes the kill shot, one of my players likes problem solving, and then you write out their characters, and you've got, okay, this character wants magic shield, this character's hunting monsters. You've got some clear connections there, and then it's just a matter of kind of connecting the dots, seeing which ones will come out in your adventure. If you haven't written your adventure yet, all those hooks will create skeleton outline of your adventure that you can flesh out, and it will exactly match what the characters want and the players want. If you've already got an adventure, it's a little trickier. You kind of gotta think about how you can foreshadow the elements of the adventure that most connect to the player's wants, most connect to the character's wants, and let them know earlier on through a session 0, directly, through story elements, indirectly. On to story hooks. So story hooks, we had player hooks, what players want. We had character hooks, connecting it to individual characters, connecting the adventure to individual characters. And these sorts of adventure hooks pull them out of the town. But let's say you're running a convention game, or you're writing a published adventure, or you're running for new players, or you want to write a kind of broader hook that doesn't seem as personalized or something like that. Whatever you're doing, story hooks are when you want to get the players, you want to hook and grab your party, draw them into the adventure, pull them out of town, or, you know, maybe your story's just in sewers beneath town, but nonetheless, you want to pull them out of the tavern and into the adventure, and you want to do it in a way that would, you know, kind of work in a generic fashion. You know, and the traditional story hook was a reward, which I too have noticed that in all the fun storylines we can create around the table, earning some gold is about the least interesting. Earning a magic item is not, you know, is when it's just promised to you by the king and you go and collect it, it's about the second least interesting. So these aren't ideal, but they're a story hook. They're the simplest story hook. You know, picture the difference. The constable of town comes to the players and says, "We have a problem with someone stealing graves in the desert yard. Maybe it's just the wind blowing off the shallow graves and jackals, but it could be something else. I'll pay you 50 gold to split among you, or, you know, maybe you really want to entice them, 500 gold to split among you, just to find out what's taking the corpses from the desert." And the mystery if you were following along there, the mystery probably hooked the party even more than the reward. What is stealing the corpses from the desert grave sites? 500 gold piece. Okay, cool. We'll get 500 gold pieces no matter what adventure we do. But the mystery, there's only one mystery here, and that's out at night in the desert gravesite when the winds blow and the jackals howl. So a mystery is a great one. But how can we make that even more successful? Picture that same constable comes to the players, same mystery, same reward, but one of the players is an undead hunter, and the constable is another one of the players' uncles. And he says, my nephew, I call upon you because your friend is an undead slayer, and there is something concerning me. And then that's kind of one of the reasons that story hooks will really work, is if they lean on kind of all of the things that we said above. The best story hook gives the players what they want. The best story hook latches into the character's specific desires. The best story hook matches what you said in session 0, so the players are prepped and primed for it. But we don't always have those available to us. Munin says it can be so hard not to tell players too much early on. Yeah, on the other hand, tell them. I think there's a reason the published adventures don't really have qualms with putting the end bad guy right on the cover. That foreshadowing is like watching the trailer for a movie. Just because you know the villain doesn't mean you know how you'll get there, what'll happen when you do, what twists there'll be, because the published adventures actually from Wizards of the Coast all are pretty good at having some sort of unknown development in the final arc or last chapter in End Boss's lair. What twists await and will you succeed is kind of a good enough suspense, even if you know who the end villain, or you think you know who the end villain is probably going to be. And Sundog says a good DM takes notes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of the things we're talking about here be much easier if you have notes. Going through your notes is like a form of preparation that you don't realize you're almost like studying for a test by going through your notes, but you are putting all the, like, it's kind of funny. I've been playing and DMing both kind of recently, and I've noticed when I'm playing, I actually have a much weaker grasp of the plot and the events, and I kind of forget things more readily. I'm like, how am I forgetting things as a player? Like, as a dungeon master, I know it all. But as a dungeon master, you are putting in these extra hours with your notes that's committing things to memory that you don't realize you're essentially studying for a test there. And when it comes session time, you've gone over your notes 3 or 4 times just brainstorming a solution. And that's kind of one of the reasons you know the characters sometimes better than the players know their own characters. Take good notes, go over them. Ideas will come to you and it'll make a richer session. Munin says you need to trickle info a bit, giving something to dig into without revealing all. Yeah. Although I would say the big bad guy being a mystery, an unknown, truly an unknown, is only one way to do the adventure. It shouldn't be a given that that the villain is hidden. A lot can be announced beforehand, and I think the suspense can still be there. On the other hand, you're playing a mystery, be very careful. Of course, then it's the full genre of mystery is about the trickle of information. And Sundog throws in a tip as well. Avoid burnout, use player interaction as plot. Yeah, taking a moment to let the players roleplay with each other is always a good way to kind of reset your energy levels during a session. But I'll say burnout during a session comes from having to improvise too much. It's so exhausting. Burnout before a session comes from having to spend too much time preparing. So there is a balance there you have to find. You prepare beforehand, less improvisation. But if you're able to improvise more, you have to do less prep beforehand. So there's a sweet spot for every dungeon master to avoid burnout. But of course, if your players are having fun, then you're having fun, and that's one of the ways as well. So when it comes to story hooks, we talked about connecting them to players and to characters. We gave an example of a mystery hook. I think story hooks, they also fail because of those things. This is why we're having trouble getting the players out of town, is we basically had a failed story hook. It didn't land. It didn't grab them. And I think one of the reasons it didn't grab them is probably solved by one of the other things we were looking at above. You know, they failed because it didn't grab to what the characters want. It failed because it didn't have something that the characters were into. Like, you can all picture a moment. I can tell you a story of one of my own adventure hooks failing. I was running a published adventure for a high-level party, but I thought I could kind of slide it in, and I really didn't prepare too much. And it was a Dungeons & Dragons Adventure League adventure, Path to Hell, and the Chosen of Ilmatar comes up to the party and says, I need to rescue the Hell Riders from Hell. You are great warriors. Come and help me. And I thought, oh, they'll grab right onto this. And my party was just like, they, being a high-level group, had their own stuff going on. This is going to be a 3-session little sidetrack mission into hell. They had their own complex storylines happening. And they looked at this 11-year-old saint, chosen of Ilmatar little girl, trying to go to hell. And they said, you know what? It'd be better if no one went on this adventure. Like, our adventure is not to help you. They were like, our adventure is to stop you from doing the adventure. And that was... Some of my players, you know, thanks to the meta, picked up on it and said, no, we need to go on this adventure. Like, Ben's read it. Seems like a cool adventure. Let's go to hell. But other players were like, let's just stop this girl from going. And if all my players had wanted to stop the girl and just not go, I would have accepted that. You know, it wasn't too much prep. Like, I can shelve it and DM it later. But I was stuck with, you know, some of my players thought, okay, you know what, going to hell, this sounds like a cool adventure. Like, let's go face devils and bargain on contracts and find riches below. And my other characters were like, that sounds dangerous. And they were, you know, we're talking 17 level. They're like, that sounds dangerous. Let's not let an 11-year-old girl go to hell. Let's no one go. And it failed because essentially one or two of the players, it didn't connect to any of the other things. It didn't connect to their meta because we had so many adventures going on. They kind of wanted to do a different adventure we had on the table. It didn't connect to their player because the idea of an escort mission protecting an 11-year-old girl didn't really appeal to them. And it didn't connect to their specific characters either. And it kind of floundered simply because I didn't kind of do some of this brainstorming. I was trusting that the adventures hook would work, and it didn't. So it's always something to think about when you're running a published adventure, because published adventures come just with these large story hooks. Published adventures don't come with the little interconnected elements to the characters. They sometimes have suggestions, which I actually find very helpful, but not all of them do, and it's kind of rare. It's kind of on us to look at these big story hooks and find the ways they connect to the individual characters. And I was involved in a few discussions on Reddit before this stream. I was kind of telling some people about my stream and talking to them about the topic. And this is something I was going to cover, but I actually forgot it was called this. So I want to throw out a thanks to Event Horizon on Reddit there's a really crucial element in story hooks that not all adventures use, and I think it's important to remember it: the inciting incident. Oh, what's these? Sometimes got some comments on Adventure League, but I don't really know how that developed afterwards. I was running some of the Adventure League adventures on my home table actually, so I can't comment. I'm not familiar. The inciting incident is essentially a story hook that develops not because of a prompt or a contract or an NPC. The inciting incident is when a story hook develops because of an event, a happening. Ryan suggested one of these earlier in the chat. The thief comes into town and collapses dead with a treasure map. That's an inciting incident. It's not the constable coming. I mean, that's technically an inciting incident, but it's not the constable coming into the tavern and saying, "Could you help me discover why some bodies have gone missing?" It's the players hearing a lone jackal howl at night, lifting the shutter of their window, and spying a figure dragging away a corpse across the town away from the graveyard. Those are the inciting incidents. And every adventure has to be incited in some capacity, but I would underline incident. I think that's the inciting incident is one of the very valuable ways that you can get the hook out of the adventure hook, put it right into the player's, lips, and pull them off on an adventure. If they're staying in town and you haven't been able to hook them with kind of personalized info or it's fallen flat, create an inciting incident, bring all that stuff together, right, and drop it right on the players with an event that occurs. Ninja's attack. It's one of my favorite expressions for just having someone that shouldn't normally get to the players. The players think they're safe, but something gets in. Ninja's attack. I mean, it could be a swarm of locusts. It could be undead jackal creatures. It could be, even on a sunny day, it could be fire spirits of the sun. Something that creates the inciting incident for the adventure. Big fan of inciting incidents. Highly encourage them in first sessions. Why would the players go off gambling and carousing in town if the town's being attacked by fire elementals of the sun? Blood thieves attack you while you sleep. They've come to steal your blood. Absolutely. Some of the comments on Reddit that were brainstorming this topic with me, I wanted to throw out some thanks to them. A couple users said it the same as I was thinking. Players don't have to leave town. If they're having fun in town, you can run a town session for a little while. You can run a town adventure for a little while. And user Matt Berry Sucks said, you just made a really good town, if your players don't want to leave town. And I like that perspective. It's like, it's the optimism in it. But there were other users said, destroy the town. They won't leave the town, just destroy it. A comet comes, etc. But I think that's kind of missing. That's kind of missing the point of what the characters are enjoying. If they're liking your town, that's the wrong thing to do, is to destroy it. So this alternative credit goes to Calidora Stallion, a user on Reddit. Threaten the town, and that can be the inciting incident. The players are not leaving town. Then you did a great job creating a town. They're having a good time, but you can threaten the town. You can if they love the town, put it under threat. If your gambling character's casino is at risk of being burned down by these fire spirits of the sun, that changes things. If the scaredy cat is at risk of being attacked by the body thieves, even where they sleep, they're not safe in town, and that's when their bravery needs to come out, and they need to go and venture and find what is causing this. And I'll give another shout out to these ideas which I hadn't thought of. User Dave Slib has a suggestion for us, which was advanced time. The Dungeon Master has power over the clock. If your players are having fun in town, they're having a great time, but it's kind of drawn on, and you see some of the players are starting to not have as much fun, or they want to get on with the adventure, and just a couple laggards are still going about. That's what you can say, all right, everyone can do one more thing in town, and then we're gonna jump to tomorrow. Or you can say, a week passes in town. Tell me one thing you do in that week. Dungeon Master has ultimate control over how time passes, and that's available to you to skip past the elements that some of the party members aren't enjoying. You can, as a little DM tip, you can use the speeding clock, the winding of the clock. As a DM tip, you can use speeding up time whenever you think it will help move the story along. If you notice that some of the players are taking too much time at something inane, like a pebble in a dungeon, or they're trying to catch fish in a pond, and 3 of your 5 people are not really into the scene, you can kind of say, All right, you spend an hour trying to catch the fish, and give me one check to see how successful you are. And you can kind of end that scene right there. But that's why I give the example of 3 of your 5 players aren't enjoying it. If 4 to 5 are enjoying that scene, let it go on a little longer. I mean, they're doing what they love. They're there to play D&D, and they're playing it. And another tip, this is from you Rubico, also deals with time. It says use a time threat. If the players are not ready to leave town, use a ticking clock. Like, this is to do with the inciting incident. It has to do with putting the town under threat. If a messenger arrives and says the army of the dead will be there at nightfall. I mean, your players love the town, but now it's under threat, and they have 1 day to get ready. The speeding up time, or the countdown clock. 2 great ways a Dungeon Master can use to move players quickly through things that are not being enjoyed by every member of the party. Doug, excellent experience that you're talking about there at Adventures League. I played in I played 1 character to 6th Level Adventures League. I had a great time playing with a few people that I'd never otherwise met, and we just got together and rolled some dice. It was a wonderful experience. But I'm reaching the end of the hour here, so I wanted to use this opportunity. If anyone in the chat has, and I'll put some of the summarizing comments into the document while we do this, but anyone in the chat has a generic, off-topic, any topic at all, question about Dungeon Mastering, running the game, maybe even question about playing, question about the rules, I don't mind fielding any of those here in our last 5 or 10 minutes or so of the stream. So go ahead if you've got any thoughts or questions like that you want to bring up in chat. Yeah, Sundog, what happened to Adventure League? I do not know, cannot comment on that any further. So it's something now that I want to go look up now that you're saying it, though. Any last questions before we sign off here? Curious Onlookers asks, how do you handle players who don't have a great backstory or motivations? Yeah, Curious Onlookers, that, I actually had trouble with that, because at once upon a time I thought, every player was like me, I enjoyed the game for these reasons. If they don't seem to be enjoying for those reasons, I just needed to show them how. I needed to lead them by the hand, show them some of these things. And that may be true, like you can kind of show the war gamers that some of the story role-playing can be really rich and fun, and vice versa. You can kind of show the players who love deep storylines how much the final kill shot is really rewarding when it comes down to a critical success or something like that. You can show people other ways to enjoy the game, but ultimately, I do kind of ask myself, if they don't have a great backstory, they don't have great motivations, are they still having a good time? If I have an entire party of no backstory, no motivation, we're into a genre that maybe I don't enjoy as a Dungeon Master. But if I just have one player who's has neutral character, no backstory, no real drive, but they're a team player, they're willing to follow along, enjoy the game as other people do, that's okay. They're there for the social night, they're there for the beer and pretzel style. They're not gonna give me rich material of the type that I really enjoy, but they can still have a good time. If it's just one, there's not a lot of stress to it. Though I do like Sundog's response there that you can include the backstory as the game plays out. Yeah, I've done that before as well. It's a great tip. Sundog says you don't need to enter a D&D with a backstory. It can develop, they start, the 5th edition did a great job with personality traits, bonds, ideals, flaws, and as well, your background. So we already know if this person made their character by the rules, we already know that they're like a sailor who has a child back on shore, and they didn't even think they had a backstory, but they've got that from their ideal, and they've got that from their background. And so we can kind of lean on that. We can say, oh, why did you, and not all at once, maybe if the character didn't write a backstory, they're not the type that maybe enjoys it. But slowly over the game, you can kind of draw it out of them, at different times. You can say, we're going to the town that you're from. Is your son still here, or the son that you left behind? What does your son do now? And you can ask them in character for some kind of, not force, but corner them to role play a little bit. Or you can ask them out of character in their own voice, but in a way, because when they say it, we're all going to kind of learn it at the table. Both those, I think, are reasonable approaches. One, they don't need a backstory. Two, it'll develop slowly. It's not a problem as long as everyone's having fun. Though, be sure to count yourself in that as a dungeon master. If what other people are doing is not fun for you, it's a problem. Yeah, so there we have it. We come to the end of the 3rd episode of Session Prep. We've looked at how to get the players to leave town. We talked about meta solutions. Just tell them. Player hooks. Give them what they want. Foreshadow that it's coming up the adventure. We talked about character hooks, tying the adventure into character backstories, character connections. A little bit of crossover with last week's episode. We talked about that this all comes together to make a good story hook. The bland story hooks don't have these things, and the rich ones do. And it comes out in the, which I spelled wrong, Inciting Incident. So that's it. Thank you for joining me for this adventure. I stream on Sundays at 4 Eastern. You can catch me 2 weeks from today on April 9th when I believe we're going to be talking about sanity, madness, and stress. The new stress mechanic and old sanity and madness rules and how to bring that out at the table. So be sure to like, subscribe, follow on your favorite social media, the Goodman Games channel, as well as myself, Twitter, YouTube at GMBenn, and TikTok, Twitch at GMBenn Show. And as always, have a good session.